The air in the Verge SEP training hall was a cocktail of recycled oxygen and alien pheromones. For instructor Eva Rostova, it was the smell of home. She watched a young Vasic cadet tremble, its forelegs braced against the slightly off-kilter centrifugal gravity. "Again," Eva said, her voice calm. "Your body knows how to fall. Stop fighting it." The translator chirped a melodic translation. The cadet attempted the Breffel maneuver, a tuck and roll designed for heavier species, and landed with a painful crunch. "Instructor," it trilled, "my species does not fall. We have redundant balance organs." "You will if someone trips you," Eva said, and with a gentle sweep of her foot, demonstrated. The cadet tumbled. "See? Falling. Now, do it without breaking anything." From the edge of the mat, a Cryaxian named Vectorum watched, his 6 limbs folded in a posture of supreme confidence. His crystalline inner ear structures locked him to the station's gravity field with an unshakable certainty. To his kind, losing balance was a mathematical improbability. "This is what you teach." Vectorum's voice was a series of precise clicks. "Primitive falling techniques. Earth balance mythology." Eva didn't turn. "It's what I'm teaching right now. Yes. My home world's gravity is 1.3 standard," he stated, unfolding to his full, imposing height. "We evolved climbing sheer cliffs. We do not lose our center. We do not fall. Congratulations on your superior evolution," Eva said, her tone flat. "Go practice your strikes on the dummy." Vectorum stepped onto the mat. The other cadets, a Quellen, a Drosk, a Thrall, fell silent. A demonstration would be educational for the others. "Show us this earth balance." Finally, Eva looked at him. She was of average human height, her frame compact and strong, her training gear worn soft from use. "You want to grapple with me? I want to show these recruits the difference between biology and superstition." Eva sighed. "If I do this, will you stop calling it mythology for the rest of the session?" "If you can put me on the ground," Vectorum clicked, his secondary arm spreading in a gesture of magnanimous challenge, "I will never speak of it again." "Deal." They faced each other on the center mat. Vectorum settled into a textbook Cryaxian combat form, his weight distributed perfectly across 4 limbs, 2 kept free to strike. It was a stance considered impossible to disrupt. Eva stood normally, feet shoulder-width apart, hands loose at her sides. "Whenever you're ready," she said, "Vector, I'm attacked with a primary limb." A straight kick fast enough to blur and powerful enough to dent hull plating. Eva didn't retreat. She stepped past the kick, into the space it had occupied a fraction of a second before. Her hand came up not in a strike, but in a casual-looking tap against his thorax. Right over the cluster of crystalline balance organs, the tap produced a specific, resonant frequency. Vectorum's world tilted violently. His proprioception screamed he was falling sideways, while his vision insisted he was upright. The sensory contradiction locked his nervous system for a paralyzing half-second. It was all she needed. Her hand found his center of mass. She didn't push or pull, but redirected his own recovery momentum against him. Suddenly, Vectorum was experiencing a sensation his species had no instinct for. He was airborne. He hit the mat with a thunderous impact. All 6 limbs splayed. The air rushed from his spiracles in a shocked, wheezed. Eva stood over him, not even breathing hard. The frequency tap disrupts the crystal lattice in your balance organs, causes temporary spatial disorientation. Your military knows about it. They train countermeasures starting at the juvenile academy level. She offered a hand. "But you're not military, are you? You're a mercenary recruit who bought his way in." He stared at her hand, stunned. The throw was Vietnamese judo, modified. The step was from a Cryaxian defensive art called Shikcha, she continued. "I studied it for 2 years on Cryax Prime. Beautiful system. You should learn it." Administrator Qualisa, A Vosik with 3 discerning eyes reviewed the security feed for the 5th time. Nothing about the incident report made sense. A human civilian instructor had exploited a physiological vulnerability that Cryaxian military intelligence had classified 8 years prior. "Bring me Instructor Rostova's file," she commanded her Threll assistant. The file was a puzzle. Degrees in kinesiology and anthropology from the University of California. Then 6 years of travel. Cryax Prime, Vostal, Quelhome. A dozen homeworlds. What human tourist spends 8 months on Vostal? Qualisa mused. One who really likes the food? The assistant offered. Qualisa's tertiary eye swiveled to stare until he wilted. She summoned all the combat instructors to a secure conference room. "Does anyone find this encounter unusual?" she asked, projecting the footage. The room erupted. The Drosk weapons instructor, Shear, was the first. "That is the crystal tap technique." "How does she know it?" "She knew about our thermal null point," added Gressick, the Quellan. "She identified the exact angle where our equilibrium sensors create false positives." Sighed Telmaner, the Vosik spatial awareness instructor. "Told me it was obvious from watching us walk." Qualisa felt a cold dread settle in her primary stomach. "How many of you has she done this to?" Every hand, claw, and tentacle in the room went up. She wasn't just cataloging their techniques. She was mapping their deepest, most protected physiological vulnerabilities. The human benign curiosity was a veil for something far more systematic, and Qualisa needed to know what. The news spread through the station's cantina like a virus. In the dim multi-species hub, theories clashed. "They are apex predators," insisted Krelnik, a Thrall, his vocal cords producing anxious harmonics. "Their psychology is threat assessment." Jex, a human cargo hauler with a missing ear, snorted. "Buddy, we were prey for most of our history. We invented pointy sticks because we were losing. Then explained the obsessive analysis." Krelnik shot back. "Your instructor catalogs every fighting capability like she's preparing for war. Or like she finds it interesting," Jex countered. "Ever think of that?" A Quellan named Fresh flickered a skeptical thermal pattern. "Curiosity does not explain the comprehensiveness. She achieved ranking in Cryaxian systems. That takes a lifetime. Your species spent 4 centuries developing thermal combat philosophy," said a Vasic Freyr captain. "Why would she not want to learn it properly?" "Because she has been alive for 30 years. Fresh replied. "The mathematics do not support mastery." The debate was a microcosm of the galaxy's fear. Humanity was new, unimpressive in raw power, yet they were dismantling millennia of combat doctrine in a handful of years. It felt like an invasion, a quiet, insidious one conducted not with warships, but with notebooks and an unsettling, endless desire to learn. Eva arrived at the cantina entrance, a training bag slung over her shoulder. "Mind if I join this character assassination? I have thoughts." The table fell silent. "They are not paranoid," she said, pulling up a chair. "They are cautious. There is a difference." She acknowledged Scholar Thesum, a Thrall academic. "You are correct. Humans index obsessively. We document compulsively. Our first art depicted hunting, not because we were good at it, but because we needed to understand the animals that were better than us." "So you admit it is a threat response," Krolnik said. "It is a respect response," Ava corrected. "Every species here spent millions of years perfecting their biology. Cryaxian balance, Quellan thermal vision, Drosk reflex hierarchies. Why would I not want to understand that? Why would I not want to learn from millions of years of evolutionary problem solving?" She looked around the table. "You think I learned Sheikja to defeat Cryaxians? I learned it because their monks spent 4 centuries developing a movement philosophy based on crystalline resonance. That is beautiful. That is worth preserving. She stood to leave, her point made. You're worried about us stealing your knowledge. I'm worried about your knowledge dying with you. She paused at the door. Oh, and Krelnik, your people have a grappling art called Mashara that uses harmonic resonance. Only 3 masters left. I start learning it next month. You're welcome to join me. Her exit left a profound silence in her wake. Vectorum arrived at the training hall early, his balance organs still aching psychosomatically. Ava was already there, moving through slow, deliberate forms. Tai Chi, she said without turning. Good for joint health. I wish to try again, Vectorum said. Properly this time. You tried properly last time. No rules. A real match. She finished her form and faced him. Fair warning. I won't use the crystal tap. That was educational theater. This will be different. They touched fists. The fight was a whirlwind. Vectorum applied everything he had learned, maintaining distance, using his reach. Ava flowed around his attacks, her style a fluid amalgamation of a dozen arts. She bridged from a jiu-jitsu position with explosive power, broke a grip using a Quellen principle, and applied a choke adapted for non-bipedal opponents by a Drosk master. He tapped out after 3 more rounds. He finally won one by using a Shitcha counter she had mentioned days prior. She looked genuinely delighted. Sitting on the mat afterward, he asked the burning question. Why did you share the crystal tap? You gave away an advantage. Because I'm not trying to maintain an advantage over you, she said. I'm trying to make you better. If I keep it secret, you stay vulnerable. If I share, you learn the counter. The baseline of skill improves for everyone. You are weaponizing collaboration, he realized. We collaborated our way past weaponization, she corrected. Combat knowledge isn't a finite resource. Sharing it doesn't leave me with less. It leaves us both with more. Administrator Kolisa finally confronted Eva in her office, the security footage of both fights playing on a loop. Instructor Rostova, your actions have caused significant concern. You possess and disseminate classified tactical information. The station council is debating your expulsion. Eva stood calmly. With respect, Administrator, the council is thinking in the past. You have made every species on this station feel exposed. I have made every species on this station stronger, Ava countered. She pulled up a new feed, live from the training hall. It showed the Vasic cadet, the one who claimed his species didn't fall, now teaching a Thrall how to manipulate spatial perception. A human was learning Cryaxian strikes from a visiting master. A Drosk and a Quellen were working through a grappling problem together. Look at them, Eva said, her voice soft but intense. A month ago, they trained in isolation. Secret techniques, proprietary systems. Now, they're learning from each other. A Drosk who understands Cryaxian balance is harder to defeat, yes. But he is also harder to kill. We are raising the collective survival chance of everyone in this room. She turned to Kolisa. You see a threat in our curiosity. I see a library. And humanity's role has always been to open the libraries, to convince everyone to put their books on the same shelf. The only thing we're weaponizing is education. Kolisa stared at the live feed, at the vibrant interspecies collaboration she had never seen before. The human wasn't dismantling their defenses. She was building a new shared one. A week later, the training hall was louder, more chaotic, and more alive than ever. The air hummed with the sounds of a dozen languages and the thuds of friendly, cross-species sparring. Vectorum stood beside Eva, watching the Aquilin cadet successfully apply a technique that combined thermal manipulation with Cryaxian balance theory. The cadet looked to Ava, who gave an approving nod. You were right, Vectorum said quietly. This did not exist before. It couldn't, Eva replied. Everyone was too busy guarding their own garden to notice the whole forest was wilting. Administrator Qualisa had not expelled her. Instead, she had quietly reclassified Ava's file, adding a new designation, Interspecies Liaison, Combat Integration. The threat had been reassessed, not as a danger, but as a catalyst. Ava clapped her hands. All right, everyone. Cross-species counter-grappling seminar starts now. Vec, you're with me. The Drosk instructor learned your recovery patterns, and he has opinions. Vector moved to join her, his 6 limbs loose and ready. The tap that had once felt like a violation now felt like an initiation. Somewhere, in offices and cantinas, people were still afraid of what humans learned. But here, on the mats, the truth was being written in movement and sweat. The humans had not come to conquer. They had come to connect, to teach, to learn. They had come to ensure that no art, no matter how ancient or alien, would ever be lost again. And in doing so, they had reminded the galaxy that the most powerful force was not a secret kept, but a lesson shared. Humans endure. Humans rise.